Hi guys. I did my final paper on and my music on the Vietnam War era and all the music that kind of was rose because of what was going on at the time in the U.S. Obviously, the um, U.S. military was fighting a war in Vietnam. They were trying to stop the spread of communism, of getting into Vietnam, but they were very unsuccessful in doing so just because of the battle conditions that were present in Vietnam at the time. The Viet Cong used a lot of guerrilla warfare tactics, which the U.S. obviously was not prepared for because previous wars that they were just involved in, like World War II, did not use battle strategies like that. Many because they used a lot of booby traps and stuff like that, and they were hitting hidden spots, and they weren't ready for this. So the casualty rate was skyrocketing, and the American people were becoming very angry, and um, they started expressing their hatred through protest. So they needed a voice. They needed an anthem to stand behind. Um, and get the government's attention. And songs like "Fortunate Son" by Creedence Clearwater Revival and "Revolution" by the Beatles were songs that captured their opinion. Um, just to give a little bio, CCR. It was a band started by John Fogerty in 1967. He was the lead guitarist, singer songwriter. His brother was also involved in the band. Their fame was very short lived. It only lasted from 1967 to 1970, but in the span they released a lot of albums and a lot of popular albums. They were one of the most popular bands at the time. Um, Very notable albums is Green River, and obviously notable songs is "Fortunate Son" was one of their notable songs, and "Bad Moon Rising," some top 10 singles, but they came to a quick stop in 1970 when there was a lot of internal issues with the band, and Tom Fogerty decided to split ways, and they just split up. So then the Beatles, obviously, on the other hand, they have a very long track record, a lot of fame, um, but it's kind of funny how I found out that they kind of started. It was Brian Epstein, who was in a local record store, caught the attention of these guys and kind of gave their name to people, to some higher order people, and they were able to help the Beatles out and really get the band started. And it was kind of funny, was looking at all their popularity in music and stuff like that, but they were also very popular in the movie industry. They, starred in a movie called A Hard Day's Night, which captured their fame. But to move on to analyze these songs, so let's start off with "Fortunate Son." Um, it was a very obviously anti-war song, and it was both of these songs. They're very guitar heavy, and I think especially in "Fortunate Son" that it almost it's like fire. The guitar shows and represents the Americans people's anger and frustration. It kind of exaggerates that feeling with the guitar and John Fogerty's strong raspy voice. Um, he also explained not only his opposition to the war, but his opposition to the some of the people that were able to stay out of the draft, young men that were came from wealthy areas, or privileged men were able to stay out of the war, and he didn't believe that was right because the normal ordinary man you know still had to get it together and go off and fight a war in Vietnam, and he didn't believe that was right. Um, but Analyzing the song "Revolution," on the other hand, it kind of took a different spin. This song was originated from the White Album that was released when John Lennon was in India at the time, and he was doing a lot of meditation and stuff like that. Uh, and I guess this is where he kind of was able to develop his strategy to how the U.S. people should, you know, oppose the war properly, or protest properly. He didn't believe, he strongly opposed violence, and he kind of wanted more of a non-violent approach, a peaceful approach, because he thought that no matter what, the government, if violence, and trying to challenge institutions is always going to fail itself eventually. And, by using the good hand of God and a more of a religious approach, everything will work itself out easier. He tried throughout the song, he tries to mock all of these like violent protesters and stuff like that, by saying, what does he say? He's like, you say you got a solution. Well, we'd love to see the plan. And obviously here he's kind of making a mockery out of these people, out of them, because like I said, they're challenging the institution will eventually just fail anyway. But obviously his songwriting influenced many American people at the time, and there was obviously a lot of people that opposed it, but there was a lot of people that supported this song, and it was a very popular song. But it did obviously there was a lot of people that opposed it. There was a lot of burnings of their albums and concerts and stuff like that, which is kind of crazy, all the turmoil that the Vietnam created during the 1960s. But obviously, comparing both of these songs, they're both, like I said, very guitar heavy, and they both speak to feelings against the war. But honestly, how both of these songs represent the American identity, it pretty much shows how the U.S. people were able to come together as one and fight against the power of authority by using their freedom of speech. And these songs were able to, used, obviously both of these song artists used their freedom of speech to help voice the American opinion. And so yeah, that's pretty much what I wrote. If you guys have any questions about my paper, I'd be happy to ask them. Just leave a comment down below, and we'll just wait for me to get back to you. But thank you for listening. All right, bye.